Hello and welcome to our viewers on CRUXinvestor.com. We're talking today to Tyler Rice, who's the CEO of Margaux Resources, and also Linda Caron, the VP of Exploration. Their share price has recently moved from 7 cents to 11 cents, and we wanted to find out why. They're speaking to us from the field, so we're doing this interview by phone. They want to tell us about the robust systems that they are seeing and also the large intercepts. They want to give us an update about the recent raise of 550K and what it's going to be used for. James Maxwell has also joined their advisory committee, and we want to understand why. And they're also going to give us a little update on the Casio drill data review following last week's press release. They seem quite excited. Let's find out why. And of course, for those of you new to CRUXinvestor, please click the button in the corner of the screen to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So let's talk to Linda first. Good morning, Linda. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Wonderful. So we haven't spoken for a few weeks. What are you up to at the moment? I mean, I know you're out in the field, which is why we're speaking by phone. What's happening?
Yeah, I'm up in camp. I've been here for about a week this stint, and the crews, we're on our second rotation of crew, making great progress, seeing a ton of stuff. It's really exciting times. Every day, people are coming back with new finds. We're doing mapping and sampling, and just trying to get our head wrapped around this project. It's a very big project, and so a lot of historic work, but it was focused in a very narrow area. So we're trying to just do a first pass visit to some of the other areas, just to look and see what's there. A lot of the historic work was on the Table Mountain side, where there's the high-grade veins, and that's not our primary focus right now. We're really more interested in the bulk tonnage target. So just re-looking at known areas where people had been, they noticed something interesting, but they maybe didn't evaluate it from the point of view of the bulk tonnage mineralization.
Right, because I know we interviewed Steve Letwin recently. He was very excited by what you guys have got. That's Steve Letwin of IAMGOLD, CEO. He's obviously has a position in your company. I know you'll have been talking, and when he kind of he talked to us, I think 2-3 weeks ago, he seemed to feel that this was the equivalent of Osisko in the early days, so which is sort of high praise indeed. I mean, what are you seeing there whilst you've been up in camp?
It just blows my mind at the size of this system. I mean, the Taurus area, which is where we have the 1 million ounce inferred resource, has about a 2 kilometer by 1 kilometer footprint. And not all of that is part of the resource, but you can see the alteration continues. But if you go a kilometer away, there's another system that's the same size, that's really there's no resource for it, had very little drilling. And right now we're working up on a target called the Lucky, which has a similar footprint size. All the same things we're seeing. We visited another one yesterday, totally different area. So I'm just seeing big legs to this system. I think that, the focus has been on Taurus, and I'm confident that's real. There's gold there, but I think that there's a whole number of other Tauruses out there just waiting for us to develop them. And that obviously that's a long-term plan, and it takes a lot of drilling. But I was saying to Tyler last week, I think we could be working here for the next 10 years, and we'd still be making new discoveries. It's
Wow.
just that big a system.
Okay, well that's really interesting. I guess if it's the size and scale that you think it is, you're going to need some help sometime down the line in terms of maybe partnerships, JVs. Is that part of the consideration, or are we just focused on trying to identify what's there now?
I think for now we're just trying to get boots on the ground and get a really good understanding of what's going on, and then obviously it's going to take a bunch of money to really fully test this area, and it's a long-term proposition.
Well, I mean, talking of which, and I know we're going to speak to Tyler in a bit, you guys have just raised the next tranche of money, and I know you're doing it small amounts, steady, and spending that frugally, as you told me last time. What are you planning on doing with that money?
I think for now, we don't want to be too dilutive, and we really think the shares are undervalued. They're trading at 11 cents today, so things are starting to move in the right direction. But I think for this season, what we'll be doing is updating the 43-101 resource for the Taurus. We're going to be doing a lot of mapping and rock sampling just to identify other targets that we may want to drill next year. And we're taking care of some of the outstanding reclamation issues that the previous operators, of which there have been many, really didn't do a great job of cleaning up after themselves, and that's become a problem with the ministry. And so we want to just come in and do things right from day one.
And take the hit on the cost of that. I mean, are we talking a lot of money, or are we going to make sure that most of the money's going into the ground?
Yeah. One of the things is there's a whole bunch of old equipment. There are some assets that are really no value to us. They're specific tires for a specific piece of machinery that we don't own anymore that are probably worth a couple of grand a piece. And so the idea is just to get to sell some of that stuff, and that should cover the cost of a lot of the reclamation.
Okay. You really are being quite frugal. I mean, obviously you must be quite...
We really are, yeah.
You really are. And obviously
we've got a Dutch accountant as a president.
That's true. I'm going to have to ask Tyler about this. His possible Scottish roots. So when we last spoke, the shares were at 7 cents, and now at 11. Obviously that's very positive. Is that a factor of gold spot price going up, or is that a factor of that people starting to listen to your message?
I think it's a messaging issue. I still think we're tremendously undervalued, but I think we're starting to get recognition. People didn't know who we are, and then it's a new project for us, and you can talk all you want, but until you're on the ground, it's just talk. And then a lot of people were waiting for that June 20th shareholder vote from Wild Sky, because that was the sort of the final piece we needed to say that the deal was done. And so since that day, we've had that news release you saw, which was some of the historic drill results, and they're like, well, we just searched the database and we were looking for anything that was thicker than 100 meters and better than a gram. And there are a whole bunch of those, and that's a really good quality intercept, and it's a sign that the system is robust. It's not just little veins with mineralization spread over a big interval. We're talking long, continuous mineralized intercepts, and that's what you need in these bulk tonnage systems. So we've been waiting on that news release until we knew we had the property for sure. So after that June 20th shareholder vote went through, we put that news release out, and I just think we're starting to get attention. People are watching now. People are listening.
I think that's right, actually. We've certainly had a few questions thrown at us with regards to what you've done after the last interview we did with you. People are keen to know more, and we should arrange to speak when you're back from the field with a bit more of a view of what's going on. But let me ask you about the announcement from last week, which was the Casio drill data review. What were you trying to achieve, and what picture has that been able to paint for you?
I think what we were trying to achieve is to show people that this is a big, robust system. And I think that, those intercepts do that. Now, the first one in the list, and I don't have it in front of me, but we did 2 columns of data, and one is actual assays, composited assays over the interval, and then there are very high grade values because there is coarse gold in this. So if you happen to get a flake of coarse gold in the core sample, the value is very high. If you don't, the value is lower. So one of the things that industry typically does is take that very high value and cut it way back to to a more appropriate number. So we chose 30 grams to cut it back. And you can see the first interval in that table, the grade just about goes in half because it's being weighted by a couple of really high grade intervals. But the second one in the table doesn't change at all. So I think we're quite confident that the gold is there, the average grade is right, and we may actually get an upgrade in values. One of the things we want to do when we drill it is to use a larger core size. If we use HQ core, which is quite a large diameter, you're capturing a bigger sample. You have more of a chance of capturing those gold flakes, so getting a better representative estimate of the gold value. All the previous drilling was much smaller. So I think that by using bigger drilling, we'll actually see the gold grade go up in that resource.
Right. Okay. Well, that's exciting. That infers additional costs. Is that part of your planning in terms of your costs going forward?
It's not that big a deal. We put out some tenders for drilling. We just told the guys what we wanted for core size, and we got some really competitive bids in. I think industry is a little slow right now, and drillers are hungry, and people want to get in on the first program with us on a project that's going to go on for many, many years. And so,
True.
Yeah, we can.
True. I do the same. I do the same, Linda. Bid low, get in, long-term contracts. I can see that. Okay. Can we just talk about James Maxwell? Obviously, we know him from Sabina. How did he get introduced? Why have you brought him on board? What's he going to do? What's the value that he's going to bring to the table?
So that's probably a better question for Tyler. I can speak briefly about it. But he and Tyler have a relationship. He's certainly somebody that's known to our technical team. We've all followed the successes in his career. He's a technical guy. He's very experienced in the junior sector, which is sometimes we get complaints from shareholders that we're not as tuned into the junior markets. So we've got the big guys that can help us develop the deposit, but the process to get there is lacking. And I think James is going to be a tremendous asset. He's well connected in the industry. He's well respected, and he's got experience on this style of deposit. Yeah,
I think he's a note from the press release. He's responsible for finding 5 million ounces with Sabina, which obviously helps. And of course, everything. It's quite easy to forget. You're ex-Kinross. You've got Kirkland Lake there, and you've got IAMGOLD. So yeah, it is big boy experience, which I guess is very useful. But as you say, no bad thing to have someone like James come in and help at this stage. Okay, Linda. Well, look, thanks for the update. Can you? Let's try and get something in the diary for when you're back from your field trip, and maybe have a proper chat then, and you can tell us about what you found.
Sure. Let me give you one little anecdote before we close.
Beautiful.
So, visible gold in rocks is hard to find, and many geologists would go their career and not find samples with visible gold. So yesterday, we've got a young fellow working with us, and we've had him on some of these reclamation tasks. He's just been here for a week now. And yesterday was his first day out with one of the geologists mapping. And, so they're up at this new prospect, never been drilled, and they come back at the end of the day, his first day in the field, and they found visible gold.
Right.
So super exciting. And it's just every day is like that. Every day somebody is coming back with a new discovery, new alteration, new veining, new area. It's just really, really an upbeat camp because it's just so exciting.
That's fantastic. Well, that's genuinely fantastic. I'm very, very pleased for you. Long may that continue. And we look forward to hearing more about it when we speak to you next.
Yeah, sounds great.
Linda, thanks very much. We'll let you get back. I know it's the start of your day there, and you're about to go and discover more gold by the sounds of it today.
Absolutely.
So we'll let you do that. Thanks again for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
Morning, Tyler. How are you?
Great, thanks. And yourself, Matthew?
Not bad, not bad. It's been a while. Good to catch up
It
with you.
has.
You've had a
Lots
bit of
going on here.
So you've had a bit of exciting news since we spoke. You've had James Maxwell join you, the Sabina Exploration manager, director. I'm not sure what, but that's a great addition to the team. So why did he come on board? How do you know him? Who put you together?
Absolutely. I've known James for a number of years through mutual contacts and connected with him at a number of mining conferences. And as I got to know him in greater depth and realizing that he was a significant contributor to growing over 5 million ounces of resource with Sabina and other properties that he's been involved in, and having 20 years of experience as a manager and a professional geologist, he just really tweaked one of the gaps that we have within our organization from the junior mining perspective, given that we've got Kirkland Lake, we've got IAMGOLD, we've got some great, big, strong names associated with our organization, that we were able to fortunately invite James Maxwell to our special advisory committee, and he joins Steve Letwin on that, and then rounds it out with Chris Stewart, who's on our board of directors, who's the president of McEwen Mining.
Yeah, pretty punchy board and committee you've got there now. Spoke with Linda earlier. She seems very excited with what she's seeing in the field. Anecdotal at this point, but she said she'll come back on and tell us a little bit more about that in the next couple of weeks when she gets back. But to that point, you've raised a bit of money recently for the kind of next phase. I mean, can you tell us how much have you raised? What are you allocating that to?
Yes, the second tranche that we just recently closed of $550,000 Canadian of hard and $160,000 of flow through is going towards mostly field work, mapping, and getting our geos up to speed with the property prior to dropping drill bits in. In addition to that, we'll be updating our historic resource that's on the property for 1 million ounces of resource. And we'll also be working on attending to a number of the reclamation matters that we inherited with the property. And that's some low-hanging fruit that we can clean up and move forward to, one, build stronger community relationships, but also to demonstrate to the ministry that we are attending to the matters that were left behind by our predecessors.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. So, obviously you're having to stump up the cost for that. I mean, are we talking significant money? Are we talking tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands? How much?
This year, our budget is going to be around $78,000 of environmental costs associated with water monitoring and policy preparation with regards to some of the matters that were left behind. And the reason why we were able to get the property so cheap is because we have an ability to demonstrate our attention to dealing with these matters. And that's part and parcel to the tailings remediation work that we've done in the past as well.
Is that all going to come out of this current raise or whatever cash flow you've got left, or is that going to maybe move over into the next raise, whenever that is?
That's coming out of our current raise.
Right. Okay. Fine. Okay. And what else are you planning to do? I mean, where's the value coming from in terms of the next spend, as it were?
The value for the next spend is really the lift on going from not having a resource to having a compliant 43-101 resource. And that's been engaged and kicked off so that we can start the requisite QA/QC to move that forward so we can exit this calendar year with a compliant 43-101 resource.
Right.
And that's, to me, the biggest value. We're supplementing that with having our geos in the field, doing the mapping, cataloging historic information, and going through some of the equipment on site that has substantial value, but not necessarily to us. For example, there's a number of wheels on site, but we don't even have the unit that is correlated to said tires. So we're looking at liquidating some of the assets on site that don't have immediate value to our organization, and that cash can then be turned around and utilized to create further shareholder value.
Okay. So, but it's all kind of small stuff in the scheme of things, because the core focus has got to be the identifying where you're going to drill, a bit more sense of what you've got, because obviously you've been doing a little bit of this, a little bit of storytelling in the marketplace. Share price moved from 7 cents when we last spoke to I think 11 cents at the moment. where do you think that's come from? Do you think that's just because the price of gold's gone up, or do you think it's because you're better at telling the story in the marketplace? And what's happening?
June 20th was a strategic day for Margaux Resources, as that was the day when the shareholders of Wild Sky voted and approved the transaction. So a lot of our ability to tell the story and get our messaging out was subject to that approval. And now that we've bypassed that and we're seeing gold back into the spotlight, it's a combination of both. But given our ability to now state that we unequivocally have the Casio property, that gives us a stronger message.
Right. Okay. And I think since we've been talking, you've always done what you said you were going to do, which is great. We have talked in the past about identifying other M&A activity and targets, I should say. Are those sorts of conversations happening?
Right now, we're looking at our current acquisition at the Casio and triaging the properties that were inherited with that acquisition. Mm-hmm. And as you'll note from Linda, every day we're coming back with new opportunities within the 60,000 hectares of land that we just inherited with the transaction. And so, yes, we keep our eyes open for other alternatives in British Columbia, but we do have a bit of a blinder on until we have fully triaged our recent acquisition.
Yeah, because I think what have you got? 60,000 acres? Or was it hectares?
Hectares.
My goodness, that's a small country. I guess you've got a lot on your plate there, as it is. But that'd be interesting to see how that develops out. So, what are you excited about for the next quarter?
For the next quarter, getting everything ground truth, having our geos continue their mapping, and when we have geos coming back with visible gold, it's exciting every day. And identifying where we're going to plunk down that first drill hole, and then ultimately looking at our 43-101 compliant resource. I truly believe that's the ultimate piece that's going to move our needle most strongly.
Okay. Tyler, thanks for the update. I appreciate it. Look forward to getting the next piece of news from you. Let's catch up in the next few weeks when things have moved along a bit, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, Matthew.
Appreciate it, Tyler. Thanks again. Thank you very much for watching our video. We do aim to give you informed and intelligent information with which to make your investment decisions. So if you liked what you just saw, please give us a thumbs up. And if you want to see more insightful, in-depth, honest, and unbiased interviews, then please click the subscribe button. So thanks again for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.